Brandi Joseph, also known as the Beretta Beretta Brandi from Fortune Firearms is next.
Oh, but first, do you know we have a world-class training school here in San Diego? Pilots can fly almost every single day. And we're close to the ocean, the desert, the mountains, international borders, and even a major military base. That's why San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. You can learn to fly in sunny San Diego. That's right off Montgomery Field. And getting started real easy. Call them at 858-569-1822 or just go to Learn to Fly with SDFTI. But I'd call them 858-569-1822.
Now, did we learn last week on Stump My Nephew that Beretta makes wine?
Yes, we did.
So Beretta Brandi. I don't think they're talking about.
I don't think
they're talking about spirits.
We're missing. Well, I don't know. Those are two good spirits from a wine company.
So, Brandi, are you on the line?
I am.
How are you?
I am good, and you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us, how did you get the nickname Beretta Brandi?
Well, Beretta is my favorite gun.
Which one do you like?
The PX4 Storm 40 caliber, which it might be something different if I had access to a little bit more in California, but that's it for now.
Isn't that horrible? So tell people, give your background. You run a gun shop, right? Up in tell people who you are.
I run a firearm dealership in Sage. It's about 7 miles east of Temecula wine country near Awanga. And I also run a training school, so I have a few certified trainers that work for me as well.
Wow, very cool. Now, as a dealer in California, you were saying that, hey, if you had access to other firearms, that might change. You're talking about, of course, the quote unquote safe handgun roster, which we have a lawsuit. I'm a named plaintiff, and San Diego County Gun Owners is a named plaintiff in that lawsuit. We're trying very hard to get rid of that. How does that affect you as a dealer?
Well, a couple of things that it does. It creates a predatory environment for any FFL that is operating in California. Our suppliers, everything that we see on the website, anything coming to California, just that one or two additional features marks our guns up $100 to $200, and there's really not too much meat left on the bone once it comes to California gun sales.
Wow.
It obviously limits what we're allowed to have, and it puts firearm ownership out of reach to an average low-income household when you have the majority of the firearms that are on a roster are $500, $600, $700, and we don't have access to the $200-$300 reliable guns that somebody can just purchase just to protect your home.
Well, and one of the lead plaintiff is Lana Rena, and she actually is a part of the lawsuit because she wants to buy a Shield EZ, an M&P Shield EZ, and the reason she needs the EZ, they call it EZ because it's easier to rack the slide, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the 380.
And she has difficulty with her hand dexterity. And so she needs that. And so it's really more of it's almost an ADA case more than it's a Second Amendment case.
It definitely is. It definitely is, and I can vouch for that in my experience, because when I have older women that come out and they want to purchase their firearms, their only options are that the 9mm slides aren't that easy for them to rack on the anything, a SIG, a Smith & Wesson, or anything like that that's small enough for them to handle, so they want to go 380. Well, you only have one or two 380 options, and that's the P238?
Yeah.
Which is just the oddest gun ever. And
what don't you like about the P238?
Just a grip on it. It's almost like a clap, like you clap your hand to hold it. You don't get a full round grip around it. It's the odd gun. Yeah, it's cute.
Now, how did you get into firearms? How did you become a dealer?
I've always owned firearms since I was legally able to, but during the pandemic, I was working for a contractor in Marietta. And, actually, before the pandemic, I was a home inspector, so I went into a lot of homes. Hemet was predominantly my community. I worked there for 13 years. I had been in and out of probably about somewhere between 27 and 3,000 homes a year I went into by myself.
Oh my gosh.
And at the time, so yeah, I did it for years, and it wasn't until about 2020 when I started feeling unsafe. That's when things started getting, political climate started changing, and I started seeing a lot more of what I wasn't comfortable with after doing it for 12 years. So I had seen somebody when I was into him in the Walmart, which was like a really odd situation. He wouldn't stop talking to me, but, because I worked in sober living homes, things like that, I would still go into those type of locations by myself. And I'd seen somebody at the Walmart in Hemet. He wouldn't stop talking to me all the way outside, all the way to my car. And by the time I got home, my husband was like, you should probably get your carry permit. Jeez. I'm like, that'd be a good idea. So at least if I'm not in public, if I'm in public by myself or with my kids, the guy could have easily hopped in the car and followed me home. Well, home for me is a 14-mile stretch with nothing. So if anything happens on the road, I'm by myself still at that point. So I went went through the process of getting my concealed carry. That wasn't the easiest thing in the world. Ran into a couple people that weren't so helpful, but I ended up going into Counter-Strike in Hemet with Greg. May he rest in peace. He was an awesome person. He really actually set me on the right path to get my CCW. Directed me to the right people, talked to me about my good cause statement and my qualifying shoot and all those things. So after meeting with him, I was ready to go. So after that, I went and got past my qualifications. And I was actually going back and forth to the range with Jackie at PMS. You had her on a few weeks ago. That's one of my really good friends.
Yeah. Yeah. She's awesome.
Yeah. So I was actually going back and forth to Rainbow with her, spending time on the range with her. And she kept telling me, you should train. I'm like, you know what? I started realizing what a demand it was for women to be on the range training. It was really hard. And that was also from my experience getting my concealed carry. It was, you got the guy that walks on the range wearing, leg rigs and armor, and he's militant, and to him there's such things as dumb questions. And when you're talking about guns, you should be able to ask the dumb and the intelligent questions. But that rapport just wasn't there with him. So I was like, maybe I should go into firearm training. So I did. But during that process, it was also I was looking for the right concealed carry firearm. I wanted to put more than one on. And me going in and out of the gun stores, I wasn't, fighting the person who would sit down and actually talk to me about my gun needs. Buying a gun, you have to have a reason, well, not have a reason, but most people purchase it for a reason.
Right.
Why? Where are you going to keep it? Do you want to keep it at home as a home defense, or is it going to eventually be concealed carry? If it's a concealed carry, we got to talk about how you can conceal it. So I finally went into Ammo Brothers in Paris, and one of the managers there just sat me down, and he let me hold everything, showed me my holster, and was like, this is what you do, this is what I do. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. So after a while, I was talking to my husband again, and he's like, well, you have such a bad gun buying experience. Why don't you get your dealer license and make that easier for women?
Well, and you said, let me ask you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. No, I was just, I agreed with him. I was like, that's true.
But there's one thing you said at the beginning that I really want to make sure we talk about. You said that the political environment had changed, and that was one of the considerations for wanting to defend yourself. Can you talk about that? What do you mean by that?
Just more comments that I get out of people when I'm in their homes, racial comments that I get from people. I've been doing that for 12 years. I've never had anybody just come right out and say that they didn't agree with me being in their house. But at that point, people felt really free to tell me that. And it was like, oh, okay.
Telling you that they didn't want you in their house?
Oh, yeah. I had a man to sit and tell me to his face, oh, yeah, my dad just died a few weeks ago. If he was alive, you wouldn't be here. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. And I had somebody else not want to let me in the house and call my office and ask for either a white man or a white woman. So
what?
The reception, oh, yeah, it was crazy. And I had been doing it for so long. So to start getting this, it was like, all right, this seems to be getting a little bit more consistent, the comments and things like that. When people are in their home, they act different.
That's crazy. When
they're in public and people see it, they're afraid of their peers. So
Well,
After
so
that, I started feeling it a little.
that's insane. I know black gun owners make up a huge, probably the largest segment of new gun owners recently in the last few years.
Yes.
What are you seeing that, and why is it because of what you just described, or why do you think it is?
I think it's partially what I described, and I also believe it's partially just because there's a lot more firearm trainers and a lot more African Americans getting more involved in the gun world. And representation is everything. If you don't ever see anybody doing it, or anybody, actively doing it, or living the life or things like that, it's so far-fetched for you to actually be that person. And now that they're starting to see a lot more of, people, we have Redstone Firearm Dealership. They're a huge dealership
Up in L.A.?
In Burbank. They've been there forever. They had another branch. They also have other businesses that they run that are just huge. I think it's partially representation.
I can't even fathom that. I can't believe in 2022. I grew up in North Florida, which is basically lower Alabama, and in the 80s we moved there in the early 80s we moved there, which was 10, maybe 15 years, more like 10 years prior. They actually had KKK marches down Main Street, and when we moved, so we're not that far removed.
No, we really are. And a lot of those people who marched in those are still alive, and they raise kids. So it's still alive in there. It's just not as up in front in our face anymore.
Well, I've never really understood why firearms ownership hasn't been more popular in the black community in America, because and I'm glad it's starting to become that way, and we've encouraged it, and we've actually have classes and groups of folks who've reached out to us and said, hey, we want to see more outreach to the black community, and let's do it, let's support it. So thank you for doing what you do. Fortune Firearms, which is fortunefirearms.com. We have Beretta Brandi. Thank you so much, Brandi. Appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you a lot more.
Thank you. You have a good.
Thanks for watching this clip from Gun Owners Radio. You can watch us live every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're in the San Diego area, you can listen to us on 1170 a.m. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform for free. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can help restore and protect the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.